In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint up a BMC Toys German Halftrack to look more realistic. But first, my review. So here it is, guys, the 132 scale German Halftrack by BMC Toys. Completely deconstructed because I thought that would be fun, I guess. I don't know. Getting this whole shot set up ended up being a lot more work than I thought it would be. But it also gave me some time to really look at the entire toy and make some decisions about how I was going to paint it up to look more realistic. And no matter what I do, I think there's just going to be things that I need to compensate for. There's just not a lot of detail. So altogether, this breaks down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 parts plus 4 crew. That is 16 total pieces. This main body of the Halftrack does look like it wants to come apart, but I couldn't get good leverage on the small pins that are inside in order to really deconstruct that part without risking it snapping. And because I don't want to break it and risk having to spend more time than I need to repairing it, I decided just to leave it intact. So quickly looking at the details, they're largely flat geometric shapes. There's nothing crazy going on. I think some weathering on this will really make it stand out. And I'll keep the colors nice and simple in a nice flat field gray. Very likely to look at some references online. The weapons that are attached are very simple. Don't need to go crazy there. The back door hatch, very, very simple as well. It is cool that there are 4 different tools, so that's kind of nice. It looks like there is an axe, a shovel, what looks like some sort of a digging tool, and then a pick. This might be another axe. I guess depends on how you look at it. This piece is confusing me. The engine hood hatches are very simple. The lights, I think, need to be thought about a little bit more. I'm not sure what to do with them because they have these little dimples. So this is sort of an up in the air for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might just paint them white. I don't know. That's interesting. I'll have to think about how to handle the lights here. Right. So yeah, overall, there's 1, 2, 3 stickers that need to be removed. I'll have to do some scraping. I think they seem to be pretty flush. So yeah, the decals don't seem to be raised. So, oh, you know what? They're water decals, not stickers. So if I go over this with a spray paint, it should cover it up, which will be nice. But then I can just go back in and do some hand stenciling of these actual marks if I want to. So construction of this is pretty simple. I'm thinking that even though it's a toy with the wheels, for the final painted piece, I might actually take the moving pieces off. It's either that or I only paint the wheel walls of these 2 black tires because these 2 wheels are not visible from the side when it's all together. The tracks themselves are very, very simple, but they do have nice recesses and honestly would probably look good with the right amount of weathering texture. They're just simple enough that they would stand out, and then you can use a dark wash to fill in all these dark areas and pull back on that detail and really just bring the front metal pieces, these wheels, into focus. And of course some dust and grime on the tires will look good too. These are MG34s. They are very simplified. You can't really get much detail on them. I'm thinking just black, maybe a gunmetal, something with metallic in it, but I'll have to see how this all takes to with the primer. From a painter's perspective, I think this is really going to be about maximizing the overall look of the toy rather than focusing on the minute details of the very flat surface. So the surfaces are very flat. These tools are very flat, and I think the real charm of this will be to leave the interior largely undecorated and simplified, as well as the outside, and add some sort of weathering effect to the final coat and give it just a real beaten down, well used look, and that will completely take away from any of the simplified like the pieces. So the sum of its parts will ultimately sell the entire thing. The figures are basic Wehrmacht German infantry, and I like that they have this little detail of an MP40 slung to their back. I think that looks nice. It almost looks like it's in its own holster, but it's really just on the way the design of the sculpt is. And now moving back into the construction of the vehicle, you can see it's very simple. Most of it is just snapped together, but the wheels are a little tricky to get in for a second, and once you realize how easy it is, you realize you were an idiot and it was not tricky at all. Flip it back over, mount the weapons back on, and load up the infantry. Vroom, vroom. Then I removed the wheels and the weapons and took it outside to spray paint it Panzer gray. Then I painted the Wehrmacht black. Oh, look at the cute little fascists all curled up like sardines in a can. The next step was to apply Vallejo's natural gray all over the body of the half-track. So one of the tricks to dry brushing is not to have the brush be too dry. You do want to get most of the moisture off of the bristles, but in this instance, you'll see that the paint is still very workable. It's not powdery, it's not actually flaking off. Sometimes when you're using a dry brush, the tendency can be to remove all the moisture from the brush. But really, doing so makes the paint dry on the brush, and then you're just scraping it onto the edges. And that can give you a very powdery effect, which some people like, myself, not particularly. Next, I took some Vallejo Desert Yellow, and I applied it very sparingly over the wheel wells and the wheel cover to give it a dusty effect. Here's a little peek at what it looked like at this stage before moving into using German black brown on all of the handles of the tools that are attached to the sides of the hull, for lack of a better word, of the main vehicle. I'm going to go at normal speed for this so you can get a sense of the precision I was going for. And then I'm going to speed it up a bit more to show you the rest. Next, I went in and added some more texture with more desert yellow and mixed in some of the German black brown along with black onto the tire wheels and tracks. Try to darken them up and create some contrast from the top of the vehicle to the bottom. It was at this point I thought everything was looking really good and it was time to use a wash. The trick is to pick out key areas of the half-track and use the wash sparingly and strategically rather than cover the entire thing and make it look brown and dirty. And here's a quick look at the overall coverage. It's still wet at this point, but once it dries, it tones down very nicely. I then remembered I had to paint these wheels and I didn't feel like going out and priming them in the cold, so I just painted them black, and that was really all I needed because they were going to get a nice dusting of desert yellow before they were all done. But here I am using a mix of umber and black wash to go over all of the tracks, just trying to create more contrast because I pretty much eliminated all of the original texturing work I did with the yellow. It's just one of those trial and error things. I do end up bringing it back, but I'm just going over all of the pieces like I did with the umber wash, and I'm just darkening them again, so giving it a bit more contrast and pulling out those recesses and details a bit more. And now with the bulk of the half-track vehicle actually done, it was time to move on to painting the infantry that came with it. I decided to keep the infantry paint jobs very simple because they themselves are very simple. The sculpts have very low detail and there's not any variety in the four of them. So keeping it very streamlined made the process go by very smoothly, and it was quite enjoyable. I liked the time lapse of painting everything, so I left it in this video for you to enjoy as well. Next, it was time to reassemble the wheels and the weapons and get those painted up as well, since I forgot to prime them. And because I didn't prime it properly, I just went over it with some Vallejo black paint, which covered really nicely and smoothly. And then I dry brushed gray, natural gray over that, just like I did the rest of the vehicle, and it looked great. It looked just like it should. Then it was time to go over the wheels that I had just painted with that same dry brush technique, and then adding in some desert yellow to offset the gray and give it a well-traveled, dirty look. And in the spirit of keeping things simple, I decided to hit the headlights with a little bit of that same desert yellow I had been using and just call them done. And so rather than demonstrate how to paint fascist symbols, which sounds like a lovely idea, I opted to add various bullet holes, scratches, and dings around the exterior hull of the vehicle, and I thought this also did a great job of adding some interesting visual storytelling, like maybe this thing just came fresh out of a battle and is rolling through the streets. And if you're interested in learning how I painted these bullet holes in 3 easy steps, check out the short linked in my description and let me know what you think. Whew. And with that corny transition, here is the final look one more time. Just some quick thoughts on the process. Very easy. I had that pretty dialed in, and I got this whole thing painted up pretty quickly. It was the extra infantry that added time, and then really what took the most amount of time to get this video to you guys was all the editing. It's a lot to think about and a lot to commentate on, and boiling down all of the hours spent painting ends up in multiple hours of editing and re-recording and second guessing myself and everything. So this has been another great learning experience. I appreciate everyone who's made it this far into the video, who sticks around, who comments, who likes. I know no one's watching this anymore, so I'm just going to say thank you. Please like and subscribe if this was valuable to you. Share it if you think someone will get some value out of it themselves, and have a great life. I'll talk to you soon.